needed situated. Thank you for joining for 10-minute burst of innovation on this Thanksgiving week. Today, as I know you're all headed out to host Thanksgiving, take some rejuvenation time, gather with friends, maybe go on vacation, stay on vacation, I actually want to put a little something in your ear to think about. And that is the difference between collaboration and consensus. And I think this is really important as we dial up conversation about um, being inclusive and gathering other people's perspective. I think that's all really important. But I want to put some things into context of moving ideas forward. Now, as I said before, for those who joined a little bit earlier, apologize for my voice. I woke up Friday morning with laryngitis, I guess. I don't know, whatever. I can't speak. I feel great. I just can't talk. It's a funny quandary, really, when you're like, I have a lot to say, but you have no voice. Maybe it's a life lesson from the universe. All right. I want to put in here a little bit of a difference between big difference actually between collaboration and consensus. So oftentimes, in an effort to include other people, to gather perspectives, and sometimes simply to be liked as a leader, we end up in a situation of consensus. What do I mean by that? I mean where everybody has input to the idea and to the decision and how it's moved forward. That's consensus. Now, in my head, I like to think of consensus as if you took every Crayola crayon in the box and put it all melted in a pot, and all you get is like this mushy color, right? The challenge with consensus is consensus actually waters down ideas. In fact, it makes it hard to move forward. Just put in the chat whether or comments whether you're online or on Zoom. How many of you have been in a situation where consensus, everybody having a piece of the decision pie, where everybody had a piece of it? How many of you have been in that situation? And what was the outcome? Just tell me in a sentence. Was the outcome good? Did it get you what you wanted? Did the idea move forward? Was it good? Or, as I suspect for a lot of us, was it watered down? Did it end up not being as innovative or brilliant of an idea as it should have been? That's the challenge, I would say, with consensus. Yes, Kelly says, yes, the idea was so watered down that it meant nothing to anybody. Exactly, Kelly. That is a great way to put it. It meant nothing to anybody. So that's what happens with consensus. Mary T says, no one got what they wanted. You know what, Mary T, that's a great way to say it. The irony with consensus is while you're trying to placate everybody and make everybody feel good, at the end of the day, nobody gets what they wanted because it morphs the idea into this like blob of wet clay. That's why consensus is a problem. Here's what I want you to think about. Instead of building consensus for an idea, for a decision that you need to make, I want you to drive real collaboration. And let me show you what I mean by that. I'm hoping oh, yes, it's still on there. Love it when that happens. There's a big difference between consensus and collaboration. So let me show you what I'm talking about here. So, consensus, as I was just talking about, that's everyone having input and decision making on everything. Nobody gets what they want. It's watered down. And frankly, people feel heard, but they don't actually feel valued because what they want coming out of it isn't what they had hoped for. So let me say that again. I think that's really important. When you have consensus, people feel heard in a moment, but they don't actually feel valued because with so many pieces, so many people having input, the idea gets watered down. What I want you to think about is driving collaboration. And here's how we like to define collaboration in my company when we work with our clients: the right people gathering at the right table at the right time, having the right conversation. Think about that for a second. How does that sit with you when you look at collaboration? The right people. Now, that absolutely should be a cross functional team, key stakeholders, people that have input in the decision making process at the right table, meaning they're gathering to kind of discuss the right things, have the right conversations at the right time. Okay, that means what your matters in that moment. How many times have we gone to meetings and we're discussing something that like it just doesn't need to be discussed, right? It's not the right time. Frankly, you can't do anything about it anyway. At the right time, having the right conversation, discussing the right things. That is real collaboration. Connie just said it best over here in the chat. She said one person made the decision anyway. That was with consensus. Right. So here you are. Everybody gets input, but one person ends up making the decision. Oh, by the way, again, that goes to feeling valued or heard, but not valued, because in the moment you feel heard, right? They heard your idea, but you don't feel valued. And if you're joining us late, by the way, yes, my voice is super scratchy. I woke up on Friday with laryngitis or whatever. I don't even know, but now I have this voice for a while. So I want to give you an example of collaboration done incredibly well. Before I do that, do me a favor, take a screenshot of this. I know it's like the most big screen, but the next time you are going to make a decision, move forward with an idea, get input, I want you to think about this consensus versus collaboration, to make sure you don't fall into the consensus trap. It's very easy to do. It feels good. Everybody has say, but they shouldn't. Not even in innovation. Now, I'm all for ideas come from everywhere and we should get input from everyone, but that's very different. And I want to give you an example of someone who does that really well. So let me take my stop share off for a second here on everything. So let me share a story with you, someone who I think drives collaboration, as we just talked about it, really, really well. So it's a client that I have over at a company called Jacobs. And Jacobs is a company that's embedded in NASA, among other companies. So a lot of engineering. And she told me a story of how they do something, how they gather new ideas and how they move forward, which I thought was absolutely brilliant. Here's what they do. Anyone can input a suggestion or an idea for a new process, a new idea, a new solution, a new product, a new service, whatever it is, across the company. Anyone can input it. So awesome. Then there's a committee, and that committee is responsible for gathering and reviewing those ideas. That committee is collaboration. They're a cross-functional committee. They go through all the ideas and they decide of those ideas which ones they're going to move forward with. Between them on the committee, they have the right perspective, experience, knowledge to be able to marry these new ideas coming in with kind of the bigger picture that they see and where they know it fits in the broader scheme of the company. That is collaboration. Now, two things come out of this that's really cool. One is, and this is kind of a separate insight, but really important. One is they go, and every time they get new ideas, their team is responsible for going back to the people that inputted those ideas and telling them the status. So Connie, let's say you put in an idea and we're not going to go forward with it at this time for one reason or another. My job on that committee is to go to you and say, Connie, I so appreciate you inputting this idea. Tell me more about where it came from. We're not moving forward at this time, and here's why. That's the part I think in collaboration that's missed. So often we think it's like, well, I make the decision and then everybody should just go with me. No. When we have strong collaboration like they do this company, there's an accountability side that goes back to the people who inputted the ideas. So they've got this like go far and wide net, and then it comes into this collaboration committee that has the right people at the table at the right time, discussing the right things. And then they're accountable for going back to their people and saying, hey, we're going forward with this. Maybe Mary T put in something that we are going forward with. So somebody else on the committee is going to go to her. Maybe Kirby put something in. People are going to go to him and say, hey, this is what we're doing this one. They're the ones that make the decision on what gets moved forward and what doesn't. Now, people can debate and argue and they can advocate for their ideas. But my point is, just let me say it differently. Imagine for a moment if every single person in the company, inputted their ideas. So that part I love. That's awesome. Ideas come from anywhere, and we should always have that channel open. But imagine for a moment if then everyone made the decision about what's going to go forward and how it goes forward. To Connie's point, and I think it was Mary T's point and Kirby's point, the solution's no good. No one gets what they wanted in the end because it just morphs into something weird. And one person ends up making the decision often. You know what it's kind of like? Have you ever seen a TV show where you thought, wow, this is so bland? I don't know. It's like they're trying to appease everybody, every audience. That's what consensus is. It's nothing. It's nothing to no one. Collaboration like this company Jacobs does is really strong, right? They have the innovation pipeline open and then the right people get together to discuss it. Those are people with the right perspective, the right information, the right experience, the right connections to get ideas moving forward. right? The right knowledge about what else is happening in the company, but they're open to those new ideas. So as you go into this week, I want you to think about where can you drive real collaboration and where do you need to walk away from maybe consensus building that's trying to happen. It's not even building. I don't know why that phrase exists. It should be consensus watering down. Let me ask you in the chat bar, whether you are on one of our social media or if you are on Zoom, what did you get out of today's 10-minute burst? What are you going to go through this week thinking about? How are you going to think differently about collaboration, consensus? What are you going to do? Just give me a sentence. And like I said before, I woke up with this weird voice, so bear with me as I scratch along with my laryngitis or whatever it is. All right, tell me what's your aha out of this, and what are you going to do a little bit differently? This is great. Okay. Aaron just said, in an effort to be liked as a leader, liked in quotes, I have a tendency to try to make sure everybody's input gets into the idea before I move it forward, and then the ideas end up kind of bad. I'm going to stop doing that. Okay, Aaron, sorry, I botched it, but I wanted to make sure I said it right. Yes, right? In an effort to be liked as leaders, it's very easy to try to want consensus because we want everybody to be happy. We want them to be along. We want it to like us. They want to feel like we want them to feel like we hear them. But the reality is when we do that, Aaron, to your point, right, the ideas end up kind of, I think what's great about this example with Jacobs is even if your idea doesn't move forward or your perspective doesn't get in consideration as part of the final idea, you're told why. And that's the part, Aaron, that I think is key. If you're going to go away from consensus, and I hope you do, the key there is communication, right? Communicating what we're doing, what we're not doing, and why. People don't need to be right. They need to be heard, and they need to be valued. I can't tell you the number of times when I was in consulting as a junior and I had a million ideas, and some of them were brilliant, some of them were totally naive, right? They were all over the place. But I had a boss who was very good at telling me, hey, tomorrow we're going to present this idea to the client. This was in consulting. Or, hey, tomorrow we're not presenting this one to the client, and here's why. The here's why matters so much in collaboration, and we often miss that. All right. Kirby says consensus versus majority vote. Well, I think it depends on who's around the table. Like you can have a group of stakeholders. Let's say you've got 12 stakeholders in the room and they're the right people to have the conversation at the right time. That's a lot of people to wrangle. And in that case, majority vote could work, but you're still doing collaboration and not consensus. Here's my issue with majority vote. I think you've got to be very careful to make sure that people are voting with the right decisions moving forward and not their own personal stakes. I also think there's got to be a real understanding and discussion around alignment when you leave that conversation. It's very hard when you leave the room and half the people feel like they don't like it. So then it's like they go talk about it in a toxic way. So I think you have to be careful with that. I think it can work, but I think you have to really focus on alignment and that understanding of the why behind it too. Yeah, communication, Connie, is super important. Challenge familiar, always do it one way. Work with the direction that I think works. Yeah, exactly, Mary T. Okay, Kirby has a question. Let me make sure I get this right. I like the Jacobs example for a large organization. Yeah, for everyone to be heard, plus the important feedback. Yeah, I like that too. Has the feedback ever resulted in an idea to move forward? For example, was it not articulated, communicated the first time around? Yeah, Kirby. So Kirby, if I understand your question right, what you're saying is, did an idea get inputted into the system, right, into the collaboration, into the committee, and get shot down, and then the second time around, it got approved? So yes, and sometimes, by the way, it's the fourth time around, because here's what happens. So Kirby, let's say you submitted an idea. The committee got together on their quarterly basis, and I came back and we said, we're not going to do this idea. So I came to you and I said, Kirby, we're not going to do this idea for these reasons. Excuse me. For these reasons. Then you, Kirby, have the opportunity to go and say, okay, I hit these roadblocks here. They see challenges here. It doesn't fit with this objective here. Let me see how I can rework this idea. So absolutely, the brilliance of going back and telling people why your idea does or does not move forward is it gives that person an opportunity to improve, edit, adjust, innovate on their idea. It's not saying no. It's saying as it is right now, it doesn't work. Does that answer your question, Kirby? I want to make sure I got that. Sorry, guys. Sorry about the voice. It's so frustrating. Collaboration wins over consensus every single time. And let me just add something, Kirby, based on your question. I think it's really important that if you're going to go back and communicate to people why their idea did or did not get approved, that you do it in a way that leaves them open to work on it. There's a big difference between going back and saying, we're not moving forward with this idea, shut it down, and we're not moving forward with this idea, and here's why, and here's what didn't work for us, because you're giving people room. Now they can shut it down on their own if they go, yeah, this will never work, never mind. Or maybe that jumps into a whole different idea, or maybe they improve and innovate on that idea. Consensus versus collaboration. Collaboration wins. Yes, Emily, thank you. Hot water and honey, that's killing me. Like, it's, when you talk for a living, it makes it very hard. So again, maybe this is the universe's way of saying I need to be quiet and just listen for a while. All right, everybody, thank you so much. Have an absolutely wonderful Thanksgiving. I'm so grateful for all of you for being here every week across the globe. It's so wonderful. Have a great Thanksgiving. I'll see you next time.